Welcome back, happy fabricators. Today we're going to be going over 5 great habits that you can create to up your TIG welding game. Okay, so number 1 habit you want to create is the pre-weld pedal tap. Now this is an important habit to create for a couple different reasons. The number 1 reason is it's going to be the first thing that tells you that you forgot to turn your gas on. Even the best sometimes forget to turn that bottle on, and tapping that pedal ahead in time and making sure you got that gas flow running through your torch is going to ensure that you don't fry an expensive stainless part or burn up a tungsten in the first 10 seconds of the day, which can be a real downer for the rest of the day. The other reason this habit is important to create is not all machines are equipped with a pre-flow setting. Some of the older machines do not have pre-flow, but they'll still have a post-flow. So if you do that pre-weld pedal tap, you're gonna activate that post flow and you can get that gas flow rolling ahead of time, and you can utilize that as a pre-flow. So hit that, let it run, get that atmosphere evacuated on your part ahead of time before you strike that arc up. Okay, so habit number 2. Now I'm not exactly sure what to call this, but for lack of better terms, we're going to call it the touch and lift habit. So what I mean by this is when you're establishing your arc length or bringing your tungsten down to your workpiece, traditionally you're going to make that determination with your eyes. So you're going to look down and see how far away that tungsten is from your substrate or your base material. Now this can work, but I'm going to recommend something that is a little more definitive. So what I'm going to recommend is you actually bring your tungsten all the way down to your workpiece and touch it to it, and then you lift off from there the correct distance. This is going to do a couple things. Number 1, if your vision is impaired for some reason, whether that be you're in a weird position, you have a forced perspective, maybe your helmet is dirty and you can't see through your lens as well as you could or should, because we all know we're really good about changing out our lenses and making sure we can see out of them. So maybe you have a dirty lens and it's a combination of a forced perspective or backlighting. A lot of those things could contribute to it, but you're going to come down and it's going to look like you're where you want it to be, and you're going to light up on that, and maybe you stick it, maybe you long arc it. You really don't know because your eyes deceived you. If you use this method every time and touch and lift, you'll know exactly where that workpiece is because you've established that by feeling it. You just come down and touch your tungsten to the workpiece, and then you've lifted it off that desired amount depending on the material you're working with. But by touching that tungsten to the workpiece and then lifting off the desired amount, you can create that muscle memory and know exactly where your arc length is going to be starting off. Now there's a couple stipulations to this. You do not want to do this when your tungsten is still hot, because that will contaminate it. Now there's going to be people say that it's going to contaminate anyway, but not to the extent that it's going to matter in 99% of the applications, as long as your tungsten is cooled off and not red hot when you do it. It's really not any different than a scratch start or lift arc even. You have to touch your tungsten to the workpiece for a lift arc. So you're doing the same thing. You're touching it and lifting off. Okay, so the number 3 habit that you want to create, that is going to be practicing on similar materials ahead of time. This is going to be critical, especially if you're working on a non-replaceable part or something for someone else. Is you want to grab a scrap of something and practice on it. And you want it to be as similar as possible. So sometimes if it's dirty, I'll grab something that's going to mimic that material, whether it's a dirty chunk of tubing. Now I'm not saying that you should make a habit of welding dirty material. If you can reach the part to clean it and it's accessible and you have the ability to clean it, by all means clean it to the best of your ability, because cleanliness is next to godliness with TIG welding. But sometimes you can't get all the way down in it if it's a crack or a groove, depending on where it's at on a piece of equipment or whatever, and that's when it's important to grab something that is as similar as possible. Another reason it's important is when you're bouncing back and forth in between maybe aluminum to stainless. Aluminum, I hold a longer arc length on aluminum, and then if I jump over to another job that's some fine detail stainless, and I've been welding aluminum for the last 2 weeks, my muscle memory's gonna automatically go to those aluminum positions. I mean, I do it all the time. I had a couple weeks ago when I had a customer bring in a cast aluminum part, and I wanted to make sure that I ran something on cast aluminum ahead of time. So I had an old transfer case sitting out back that I brought in and slopped down on the bench and cleaned off a spot on the transfer case and ran a couple beads just on that, just so I could familiarize my senses with that material and help me kind of get in the groove with that. Another example, this morning even, I had somebody drop off a stainless mid pipe, and so I went, and this is another good resource. I like to keep some of these coupons. You can get these coupons from Weld Metals online. They come in mild steel, stainless, and aluminum, and these things are great to keep in the drawer for just little practice sessions. And that's what I did with this guy. I went, cut one of them in half, some 16 gauge stainless, because that's what I was going to be welding on, and I ran a quick little bead on that before I welded the part. It just gets you in the groove. If you didn't do your pre-pedal tap and make sure your gas was on, you're gonna smoke that practice piece before you smoke the customer's part. There's multiple reasons to do a quick little practice run on something similar. And I definitely recommend these guys at Weld Metals online. They're good, affordable little coupons to throw in the drawer and have that little practice piece before you jump on the actual part. And if you want a coupon code for those guys, I'll leave that down in the description. So weld on similar materials before you strike an arc on a customer's part. Okay, so the number 4 habit that you want to create is cleaning your TIG rod. I know you hear all the time cleanliness is godliness, and people say clean your material, but another thing that's important to do is clean your filler material. I don't know if you're like me, where not all the time is all your filler material kept in a nice, tight, clean container. Sometimes the lid gets left off of it. Sometimes you have the short ones that you don't want to throw back in your case because they're going to get lost at the bottom. So you have the little holder on the bench that holds it, and it's been sitting there, and your grinding dust is stuck to it and all that stuff. Cleaning your filler rod can be a game changer, even if it's brand new material. I'll show you here. I keep the lid on this one, and I can pull a brand new piece of rod out. My preferred method is a paper towel with a little bit of acetone on it, but there are some companies that make specific wipes for this. But I'll just go and wipe that rod down once or twice, all the way down it. And let me show you this paper towel. This rod came directly out of a brand new case, and you see that it still had crud on it. But it's just a good habit to have to clean off your filler rod along with your material before you start welding. Okay, so the 5th and final habit for you guys to create today has to do with creating a proper rest. And my recommendation for creating a proper rest is to always try to make a habit of resting forward of your wrist joint. So there's a couple reasons that I feel like this is important. So just think about it. If you're floating in space, you're trying to control 4 different sets of joints. You have your shoulder, your elbow, your wrist, and your fingers. Even if you got your forearms here, you're still trying to control your wrist and your fingers. And when you're trying to advance those skills and land the tip of that filler rod right where it's supposed to, it's just one more element in the mix that can cause you to falter. Whereas if you get right down, rest your fist on something, you have less joints that your body needs to keep track of to be able to nail and pinpoint that filler rod. And that's why I definitely advocate for you to learn one of the types of feeding filler rod that you can feed it without moving your hand. I like to use this method with your fingers. You can use the rush cane method and come in and feed your fingers here. Some people like to grab it like this and feed it through. All these methods, you can plant your fist or somewhere on your hand forward of your wrist, and in one spot feed that filler rod without having to reset. Now, as you can see here, I'm flipping these 1, 2, 3 blocks around here, and I believe this is a great tool to complement this habit. I'll leave a link in these to the description, but I love using these things. I always have a set on my welding table. Not only can you use them for squares and stuff, they make super versatile arm rests. One direction's 1 inch, 2 inches, and 3 inches, and you can stack them however you please to get those good positions so that you can get forward of that wrist and know that you're good and locked in tight. So if you want to see a tighter breakdown on those different ways to feed your filler rod, I'll pop a video up here that I did. I explain what those different methods are and how to do them, and I highly recommend practicing one of those methods of feeding, and to know that you have a good solid foundation that you can hold steady and do some precision work. So hopefully these habits are helpful for you. I know they're a game changer for me. If you can think of other habits that would be helpful to up your TIG welding game, make sure to share those with me in the comments section below. If you want to see more fabrication content, click some of the videos that are going to pop up here. If you want to be notified of upcoming videos, make sure to hit the bell icon and the subscribe button, and go build something, guys.